Let's make a world. Unfortunately, I don't know how to make a real one, so let's program one instead. Now, we could manually design every detail of this world, but that sounds like far too much work, so we're going to use procedural generation instead and make the computer do all the work. And this way we can tell the computer to make many different worlds using the same techniques. Simplex noise, or open simplex noise to be precise, will be a perfect starting point for our world generation because it's random noise that changes smoothly. See how it has areas of light and dark, rather than just being a total mess? We can use these areas as the basis of our world generation. Now we just need to tweak a few parameters to get something that looks a bit like a world. Perfect. Well, okay, it's not perfect. It's just a load of black and white noise, not much of a world yet, but it is a start. Now we can use this noise as a height map for our world. We start with the noise, which gives us a value between -1 and 1 for each 2D location, so each pair of x and y coordinates. Now we can then use these values as the heights of each location in our world. We just need to save them all in a 2D grid, which we can do using an array of arrays. Next, let's just call every place with a height of at least 0 land, and every place lower than that water, then store the terrain type of each location in another grid. And when I say terrain type, I simply mean that a certain location is going to be water, or land, or something else that we add later, with this being represented in the terrain grid as a number, so 0 is water, 1 is land, and so on. Now we do have a grid, or an array of arrays, that stores the terrain type for a bunch of different locations, but this isn't very interesting to look at. We want to see our world, not just a load of numbers in a grid. How about we make each location correspond to 1 pixel, and make an image out of these pixels and draw it on the screen. We can simply use different colours for different kinds of terrain, and suddenly we have something that looks like a very basic world. This world is cool, but annoyingly we can only see it on a large scale. What if we wanted to see individual locations with their different terrain? Let's quickly add a camera so that we can zoom in and look around our world. There's not really much to see yet when we zoom in on our world, apart from land or water, so let's get on with making it more interesting. Earlier, we made every location with a height of at least 0 be land, which does leave our world a bit bland. Now, we can easily add some more terrain types just by modifying how we use the height map. As water stops at height 0, let's add some beaches next. Before making land in locations that are higher than the beaches, then we can add some mountains that are even higher than the land. It's definitely looking more interesting now, but something's still missing. I know, let's make the very highest locations be snow. Perfect. It looks like our world is coming along nicely. We have a few different terrain types that form a varied map, but it does look a bit flat and boring. We can add some depth to our world by adding some depth, literally. We can use the height map to add shading, making our world gradually lighter as it gets higher and darker as it gets lower. This simple effect really helps our world look a lot more interesting and allows us to see the height of each location in an intuitive way. So far, we're making worlds, but we currently make a totally different world every time we run the program. So what if we want to see the same world again? Luckily, the Simplex noise generator uses something called a seed, which determines what is generated, with the same seed always making exactly the same random noise. All we need to do is make a way to set this seed when we make our world, and we'll get the same world every time. We can set our seed by entering a string and taking its hash value, which is a simple way to turn any text into a number, which is what we need for our seed. Let's also make it so the seed is randomly set if we don't enter one. Also, we're soon going to use random number generation to generate some different features of our world, so let's quickly make sure that we use the same seed for that. Our world has mountains and oceans, but the space in between is currently empty. Let's fix this by adding rivers. To start with, we can simply choose a high place by using random number generation to get an x and y coordinate, then go down to the lowest location directly around it, and continue until we reach the sea or a valley, making each visited location part of the river. Let's see how this looks. Oh, These rivers are very straight. How about we always pick a lower location, but sometimes don't pick the absolute lowest? We can again do this with our random number generation, and we can introduce an element of probability. This looks a bit better with some wiggles in our rivers, but they're still very thin. Next, we can make sure that we don't let our rivers flow into locations that are already rivers, and make there be a chance to flow into more than one location as long as they always flow downwards. We can make this more likely as the height decreases, so we'll see rivers spreading out as they get lower. This looks good. We now have some decent looking rivers flowing out over our land, but our world is still very barren. Next, we need to add some life. But unfortunately, that is the end of this video. I hope you'll join me again next time, and that you enjoyed playing God with me and making a world.